The studio lights beamed down brightly as Elton John, the legendary musician with his signature flamboyant style, made his grand entrance onto the set of Loose Women, greeted by a wave of applause from the live audience. Dressed in a sparkling jacket adorned with sequins that caught the light like stars in the night sky, he flashed his iconic smile, waving to the crowd as he took his seat among the panelists, including the outspoken Denise Welch, known for her no-holds-barred opinions on everything from celebrity life to personal struggles. The show, a staple of daytime television in the UK, promised a light-hearted chat about Elton's latest projects, his retirement from touring, and perhaps some anecdotes from his storied career that spanned decades of hits like Rocket Man and Candle in the Wind. But as the conversation began, hosted by the ever-professional Kay Adams, it quickly became apparent that this wasn't going to be the smooth, promotional appearance Elton had anticipated. Denise, with her history of candid discussions on mental health and relationships, steered the talk towards more controversial waters, questioning Elton about his past feuds in the music industry and his outspoken views on politics, which had often made headlines. Elton, ever the showman, responded with his trademark wit, sharing stories of his friendships with royalty and his advocacy for LGBTQ+ rights, but Denise pressed on, probing deeper into what she perceived as inconsistencies in his public persona versus his private life. The tension simmered subtly at first, with the other panelists like Nadia Sawalha and Jane Moore trying to lighten the mood with jokes, but Denise's persistence began to irk the star. She brought up an old interview where Elton had criticized certain celebrities for their behavior, drawing a parallel to current events, and Elton shot back with a quip about minding one's own business, his voice carrying a hint of annoyance that the audience picked up on immediately. Whispers rippled through the crowd as the exchange heated up, with Elton defending his legacy and Denise challenging him on what she called hypocrisy in the spotlight. The cameras captured every furrowed brow and sharp gesture, turning what was meant to be a celebratory segment into a brewing storm. As commercials approached, the producers in the control room exchanged worried glances, sensing that the interview was veering off script in a way that could either make for viral television or a complete disaster. Elton, feeling cornered, leaned forward, his glasses slipping slightly down his nose, and delivered a pointed remark about respect for elders in the industry, which Denise countered with a passionate defense of journalistic integrity on talk shows. The back and forth escalated, with Elton's famous temper beginning to show, reminiscent of his past outbursts that had become legend in rock and roll lore. By the time the segment paused for a break, the air was thick with unspoken frustration, setting the stage for what would become one of the most talked-about moments in daytime TV history. The audience, a mix of fans and casual viewers, sat on the edge of their seats, phones at the ready to capture any further drama, while social media began to buzz with early reports of the uncomfortable vibe on set. Elton, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, whispered something to his assistant off-camera, clearly rattled but determined to hold his ground. Denise, unflinching, adjusted her microphone, ready to dive back in, her eyes sparkling with the adrenaline of confrontation. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of a clash that would lead to an unprecedented exit. Returning from the commercial break, the Loose Women panel reconvened with an attempt to steer the conversation back to safer topics, like Elton's family life with husband David Furnish and their two sons, Zachary and Elijah, whom he often spoke about with immense pride and affection. Kay Adams, sensing the earlier tension, tried to mediate by asking Elton about his inspirations for his music, hoping to diffuse the situation with nostalgia. However, Denise Welch wasn't ready to let go, interjecting with a question about Elton's past addictions and how they mirrored her own experiences, but framing it in a way that suggested judgment rather than solidarity. Elton, who had been open about his struggles with substance abuse in his autobiography Me, felt this was a low blow, especially on live television where vulnerabilities could be exploited for ratings. His response was sharp, accusing Denise of twisting his words for sensationalism, his voice rising an octave as he emphasized his journey to sobriety and the work of his AIDS Foundation. The audience gasped audibly, some cheering for Elton's candor while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Jane Moore jumped in to defend Denise, suggesting it was all in good fun, But Elton wasn't having it, retorting that fun shouldn't come at the expense of someone's personal history. The clash intensified as Denise fired back, claiming she was simply relating her own story and that celebrities like him should be prepared for tough questions on shows like this. Elton's face reddened, his hands gesturing emphatically as he recounted instances where media scrutiny had nearly destroyed him, drawing parallels to the tragic fates of friends like George Michael and Princess Diana. The other panelists exchanged glances, trying to interject with lighter comments, but the momentum was unstoppable. Producers offstage signaled frantically to wrap up this segment, but the live format meant they had to ride it out. Social media exploded during this time, with hashtags like #Elton vs Denise trending almost instantly. Fans divided between supporting the music icon and praising Denise for her boldness. Elton, feeling increasingly ambushed, stood up midway through Denise's rebuttal, declaring that he hadn't come on the show to be interrogated like a criminal. The studio fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the murmur of the audience and the hurried whispers of the crew. Denise, undeterred, continued speaking, but Elton removed his microphone pack, tossing it gently onto the couch with a dramatic flair that only a performer of his caliber could pull off. "I've had enough of this nonsense," he proclaimed, his British accent thick with indignation, as he turned towards the exit. The cameras followed him, capturing the moment in all its raw glory, while Kay Adams stammered an apology and announced an unplanned commercial break. Backstage, chaos ensued as publicists scrambled, and the show's executives pondered the fallout. This walkout wasn't just a hiccup, it was a full-blown scandal that would dominate headlines for days, sparking debates about celebrity interviews, respect, and the boundaries of daytime talk shows. Elton's team later released a statement expressing disappointment in the direction the interview took, while Loose Women's official account posted a teaser clip that garnered millions of views overnight. In the aftermath of Elton John's dramatic departure from the Loose Women set, the remaining panelists attempted to salvage the show, with Kay Adams addressing the audience directly, acknowledging the unexpected turn of events and promising more insights later. Denise Welch, still seated with a composed expression, defended her line of questioning, explaining that her intent was to foster a real conversation rather than superficial chit-chat, drawing from her own battles with depression and addiction to connect on a human level. However, the audience's reaction was mixed. Some booed softly, while others applauded her courage, creating a divided atmosphere that mirrored the online frenzy. Clips of the clash circulated rapidly on platforms like Twitter and TikTok, with users dissecting every word and gesture, some accusing Denise of being too aggressive and others hailing her as a truth-teller in an era of polished PR. Elton, meanwhile, was whisked away by his entourage to a waiting car outside the studio, where paparazzi had already gathered, shouting questions about the incident. In interviews that followed, he described the experience as unprofessional and disrespectful, vowing never to return to the show and hinting at potential legal action if any defamatory remarks were aired. The Loose Women producers faced immediate backlash, with calls for apologies and even boycotts from Elton's loyal fan base, who flooded the show's social media with messages of support for their idol. Denise, no stranger to controversy from her time on Celebrity Big Brother and her candid columns, took to her own Instagram to clarify her position, posting a lengthy video where she expressed regret if she caused offense but stood by her questions as valid journalism. The incident sparked broader discussions in the media about the role of talk shows in holding celebrities accountable versus providing entertainment, with outlets like The Sun and The Mirror running front-page stories complete with eyewitness accounts from audience members. One fan recalled the palpable tension, saying it felt like watching a rock concert turn into a wrestling match. Elton's husband, David Furnish, publicly supported him, tweeting about the importance of mutual respect in interviews. As the day unfolded, more details emerged. Apparently, the clash stemmed from a misunderstanding about pre-approved topics, with Elton's team claiming certain areas were off-limits, while the show insisted on spontaneity. Ratings for that episode skyrocketed, becoming one of the most watched in the program's history, proving that controversy sells. Commentators weighed in, some likening it to infamous moments like Tom Cruise's Oprah couch jumping or Kanye West's interruptions, placing it in the pantheon of TV meltdowns. Denise received both hate mail and fan letters, navigating the storm with her characteristic resilience. Elton, retreating to his Windsor home, reportedly spent the evening with his family, playing piano to unwind from the ordeal. The event even inspired memes and parodies, with late-night shows across the pond recreating the scene for laughs. Ultimately, this heated exchange highlighted the fragile line between admiration and interrogation in celebrity culture, leaving a lasting mark on all involved. Days after the explosive incident on Loose Women, the story continued to dominate entertainment news, with Elton John granting an exclusive interview to a rival network where he elaborated on his side of the story, painting Denise Welch as overly confrontational and the show as ambush journalism disguised as casual talk. He recounted how the questions veered into personal territory that he found invasive, especially regarding his health and past relationships, which he had already covered extensively in his documentary and book. Fans rallied around him, launching petitions for Loose Women to issue a formal apology, while critics accused him of being too sensitive for a public figure of his stature. Denise, in response, appeared on other programs to defend herself, emphasizing that her queries were born from genuine curiosity and shared experiences, not malice, and that celebrities should expect robust discussions on platforms like hers. The Loose Women panel dedicated a follow-up episode to reflecting on the event, with the hosts discussing the balance between entertainment and ethics, inviting experts to weigh in on talk show dynamics. Audience polls showed a split opinion, with 55% siding with Elton and 45% with Denise, fueling further debate. Social media influencers created reaction videos, analyzing body language, Elton's crossed arms signaling defensiveness, Denise's direct eye contact showing confidence, turning the clash into a case study for communication breakdowns. Elton's music saw a surge in streams, as curious listeners revisited his catalog, proving the adage that there's no such thing as bad publicity. Denise's book sales also spiked, as people sought more insight into her forthright personality. Behind the scenes, negotiations reportedly took place between Elton's representatives and ITV executives, aiming to smooth over the rift without litigation. Rumors swirled of a potential reconciliation appearance, but both parties denied it. The incident prompted Loose Women to review their guest preparation protocols, ensuring clearer boundaries in future interviews. Elton, ever the philanthropist, channeled the energy into promoting his foundation, using the spotlight to raise awareness for causes close to his heart. Denise, meanwhile, used her platform to advocate for mental health openness, turning a negative into a positive dialogue. Commentaries in magazines like Hello and OK explored the cultural implications, noting how such clashes reflect societal shifts towards authenticity over politeness. The video of the moment went viral globally, even catching the attention of American talk show hosts who invited both for cross-Atlantic discussions. Elton joked in a later podcast that he'd stick to concerts from now on, where the audience sings along instead of arguing back. Denise quipped that she'd welcome him back anytime for round 2. As the dust settled, the event became a footnote in Elton's illustrious career but a defining moment for Loose Women's reputation as a show that doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. Months later, the ripple effects of Elton John's clash with Denise Welch on Loose Women were still felt across the entertainment industry, inspiring think pieces on the evolution of celebrity interviews and the power dynamics between hosts and guests. Elton, reflecting in a GQ profile, admitted that while the experience was unpleasant, it reminded him of his fighting spirit from his early days in the music biz, where he battled record labels and critics alike. He even incorporated a subtle nod to the incident in his farewell tour setlist, with a reworked lyric in one of his songs that fans interpreted as a dig at daytime TV. Denise, undaunted, continued her role on the panel, often referencing the event humorously to break the ice with new guests, turning it into a badge of honor for her unfiltered style. The show's ratings remained elevated, attracting edgier celebrities who thrived on controversy. Legal experts speculated on whether defamation suits could arise, but none materialized, suggesting an amicable resolution behind closed doors. Fan conventions for Elton included Q&A sessions where the loose women moment was inevitably brought up, with him responding graciously but firmly. Denise's memoir update included a chapter on the clash, offering her unvarnished perspective and lessons learned. Media training seminars began using the clip as an example of what not to do, advising stars on exit strategies for heated situations. The audience member who filmed a bootleg version faced no repercussions, as it added to the lore. Elton's charity events saw increased donations, perhaps from sympathizers, while Denise's advocacy work gained more visibility. Parodies on shows like Saturday Night Live exaggerated the drama, with impersonators capturing Elton's flair and Denise's tenacity. The incident even influenced scriptwriters for TV dramas, incorporating similar plot lines. As time passed, both parties moved on, with Elton focusing on his legacy and Denise on her family and career. Yet, the clash remained a touchstone for discussions on respect in media, proving that even icons aren't immune to the unpredictability of live TV. In the grand tapestry of celebrity scandals, the Elton John and Denise Welch confrontation on Loose Women stands out as a modern-day clash of titans, blending music royalty with talk show grit in a spectacle that captivated millions. Looking back, it served as a catalyst for change, prompting broadcasters to prioritize guest comfort without sacrificing engaging content. Elton, in his twilight years of performing, used the experience to mentor young artists on handling media pitfalls, sharing anecdotes at industry events. Denise, ever resilient, expanded her brand with a podcast delving into celebrity psyches, often citing the incident as a turning point. The show's format evolved slightly, incorporating more pre-interview agreements to prevent repeats. Fans of both found common ground in appreciating their passions, leading to unlikely crossovers like joint charity appeals. Documentaries on Elton's life included The Moment as a minor blip, emphasizing his triumphs over adversities. Denise's public speaking engagements drew crowds eager for her side. The viral nature of the event underscored the speed of digital media, where a live mishap becomes global news in seconds. Analysts noted its impact on viewership trends, with daytime TV seeing a boost in edgier programming. Elton's discography, timeless as ever, continued to inspire, untouched by the drama. Denise's contributions to mental health awareness grew, turning personal vulnerability into strength. Ultimately, the kicked-off saga became folklore, a reminder that even in scripted worlds, real emotions can steal the show, leaving legacies enriched by the unexpected.